Good morning and welcome to today's pop-up yoga practice. Today's practice, it will be done standing. All you'll need is a yoga mat, and then you might need either blocks or a folding chair if you have less mobility, but you can also do this without blocks or a folding chair. As always, please listen to your body and make modifications and take breaks wherever needed. So we're going to start our practice today in mountain pose. So for mountain pose, you have a couple options. You can stand hip width apart, your feet hip width apart, or you can stand with your feet together. Whichever option you choose, you want your second toe to be pointing straight forward. So for some people, that might mean heels open a little bit. So find a position for your feet, and if you'd like, you can go ahead and close your eyes and notice where your weight tends to shift. Does it shift forward or back, maybe slightly to one side or the other? At first, just notice where it tends to go. And then see if you can bring the weight to the middle of your foot so that all parts of your feet are pressing straight down into the ground, rooting down through your feet as the crown of your head grows tall. Lower belly lifts, tailbone points to the ground, shoulders move down away from the ears. Chest broadens. And begin to restrict your breathing to your nose if that feels comfortable for you today. And see if you can make your inhales and exhales about even in length. And we'll keep that breath going smooth and deep in and out through your nose for this whole practice. At any time you notice that you're no longer breathing slowly and deeply in and out through your nose, you can just return your awareness to your breath and resume the deep breathing. It's an important part of our practice is learning to breathe intentionally through the whole thing. If your eyes are closed, you can go ahead and open them. We're just going to do a couple shoulder rolls, rolling back and rolling forwards. We'll move our neck gently from side to side, maybe tilting right and left, looking up and down, any way that feels all right to you. Good. And go ahead and interlace your hands. Place them on top of your head. And on an inhale, we're going to bring the arms up toward the ceiling and come up on your toes. And exhale to lower. You can also just raise the arms if you'd rather not go up on your toes. So as you grow tall on each inhale, keep your shoulders down. Continue to lift the lower belly to your spine and move with your breath. Inhaling to come up and exhaling to lower. Good. Then go ahead and inhale to bring your arms up, but keep your heels down on the ground. And as we lift up, we're going to lean over to one side and then the other. And we'll just move through this a couple times, doing a gentle side stretch. Good. Go ahead and release your hands, and we're going to go ahead and move into chair pose. So on an inhale, we'll sweep the arms up, Sit back, heels grow heavy. Take a moment and look down and make sure you can see your toes, and if not, pull your hips back so that you can. Lift your lower belly so that it's pulling away from your thighs. Hands can go up toward the corner, up above you, shoulders down, head in neutral with that crown of the head growing tall so that you've got a nice line through your spine. We'll take a couple breaths here. We'll do one last breath and see if you can sink 1 inch deeper. And on your exhale, bring your hands together and stand. Take one breath with your hands together at your heart. And we'll do that again. Inhaling to sweep the arms up, sitting back, heels heavy, arms lifting, shoulders down, lower belly lifting, heels heavy. Make sure you can see your toes. Smooth and steady breaths. One last breath, see if you can sink 1 inch lower. And on the exhale, come to stand. Very good. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, fold forward, leading with your chest. Weight shifts forward into your toes. Hands can rest on a block or on your legs if they don't quite reach the ground. You can also bend your knees and bring your feet wider apart if you'd like. And as the weight shifts forward, make sure you're not gripping the floor with your toes, but your toes are relaxed on the ground. Engage your thighs, pulling them up towards your hips to release your hamstrings. And shake your head yes and no. And take a few deep breaths in our forward fold. If you'd like, you can hold on to your elbows, or you can also interlace your hands behind your back, allowing gravity to pull you a little bit further. On each exhale, see if you can soften into the pose. Try to keep your toes heavy so that your hips don't pull back and rather stay over your heels. Let's do 2 more breaths. Good. Bring your hands to your hips, bend your legs, and come up to stand. We're going to move now into a high crescent. So maybe take a step forward, feet about shoulder width apart, and step back with your left foot, coming up onto the ball of your foot with your right knee directly over your ankle and your knee pointing the same direction as your second 2 toes. Left hip pulls forward, and we're going to lift both hips up to tilt the pelvis so that the tailbone can point toward the ground. This may mean that your back foot needs to be a little bit bent, and that's just fine. You can keep your hands on your hips, or you can float your hands up overhead. And if you feel like you can keep your tailbone pointing toward the ground, you can slowly start to straighten that back leg. Take one more breath, and then we're going to move into Warrior 3. Bring your hands to your hips, and we're going to begin to shift the weight forward. Bring your hips over your heel. Keep the left hip down, and if you're feeling stable, you can lift that left foot, pulling the left heel away from you, dipping your chest down toward the ground. You can keep your hands on your hips, or maybe you might want to try putting your hands straight out to the side. You can also keep that left toe on the ground. The lower belly lifted. And let's hold for 2 breaths. Good. And come to stand with your feet together. Feet back to hip width apart, and this time we'll step back with the right foot. Coming up on the ball of the right toe, keeping the left foot right underneath, the left heel right underneath your left knee. So adjust your stance so that it's not leaning forward. Pull your right hip forward so both hips are straight to the front, and then lift your hip points, tilting your pelvis down, reaching your tailbone toward the ground to protect your lower back. If you'd like to, you can float your hands up overhead, and if you can keep your pelvis lifted, you can begin to straighten that back leg. We'll take a couple breaths and then we'll move into Warrior 3. Good. Bring your hands back to your hips, and then we'll begin to shift the weight forward, bringing your hips so that they're over your left ankle. You can start with that right toe touching the ground for stability, and when you feel stable, you can lift that right foot, pulling the right heel away from you, keeping the right hip down toward the ground. And you can keep this left foot a little bit bent. And you can keep your hands on your hips, or you can bring your arms straight out to the side. And take a couple deep breaths in Warrior 3 on this side. You'll probably find that you're more stable on one side than the other. And come back to stand. Very good. All right, we're going to stand with the feet spread wide. They can be as wide as your arms, or they can be a little bit more narrow. Turn your toes in, so again, those second toes are pointing forward. Hands on your hips, and we're going to externally rotate the right foot, rotating at the hip. And go ahead and bend the right leg to move into Warrior 2. Your fingertips away from one another. Keep the right knee pulling out so that it's pointing the same direction as the second and third toe on your right foot. You can turn to gaze over your right fingertips. You can see if you can sink an inch or two lower. And breathe. Press evenly through both heels. And engage that left thigh while tucking the right hip under. Let's hold for one more breath. Good. Straighten the right foot, turn the right foot in, and now turn the left foot out. Turning at that left hip. Go ahead and bend the left leg so that the knee is directly over the ankle. Left hip hugs under, right thigh engages. Pull your arms straight out, feeling the length between your fingertips, and turn to gaze over your left fingertips. That left knee might have a tendency to fall inward. Keep it pressing open so it's pointing the same direction as your second and third toes. Both your hips and your shoulders are facing straight to the front, and we're pressing through both heels. Try to keep the breath smooth and deep. In and out through your nose. And one last breath here. Good. Straighten the left foot. Bring your hands back to your hips. Point both toes forward. And now externally rotate that right foot again. If you've got a block, you can place it behind your right foot. You can heel toe this left foot in to shorten your stance just a little bit. We're going to move into triangle pose. So in triangle pose, your right foot is turned out, left foot is turned in, but the right leg stays straight. So bring your arms straight out to the side and bend it at the hips rather than at the waist. Pull as far as you can to the right. And when you can't lead any farther, you can either drop your hand to the inside of your right leg, or stick it on the block right behind your right foot. And then the left arm can come up to the ceiling or go onto your hip. And then see if you can rotate your chest slightly toward the ceiling. Try to keep that right hip hugging under. Engage the right thigh. Try to keep length through this right side. It can be very easy to collapse here. Press through both heels so that your weight isn't too heavy on either your leg or the block. Let's do 2 more breaths here. And then pressing through both feet, you can come up to stand. If you've got a block, we'll switch it and put it on the other side, turning your right foot in, left foot out, put the block behind your left leg, arms straight out, and then pull to the left, bending at the hip crease, rather than at the left side. When you can't pull any farther, you can drop your hand, resting it inside your leg or right behind your hand, or right behind your foot. Right arm can float up or be on your hip. Try to twist your chest up toward the ceiling. It may not go very far. Just twist it a little bit while keeping your left hip right underneath you, not letting it open to the back. And take a couple breaths on this side. Now, pressing through both feet, come up to stand and point both toes to the front. We're going to move into a forward fold with wide legs. So starting with your hands on your hips, feeling your thighs pulling up towards your hips, leading with the chest, go ahead and fold forward. Go as far as you can with a flat back, and then you can allow yourself to round down to the ground. Feel your weight come forward just like we did when the feet were closer together. You want to try to keep your hips over your ankles. Again, make sure your toes aren't gripping, but they're relaxed. And you can keep your hands on the ground or on a block, or you can hold on to your elbows or interlace your hands behind your back. If you interlace, you can switch the other finger in front than you did last time. It might feel a little funny, but it's good to try to stay balanced as much as possible. Let's do 2 more breaths. Smooth and even, in and out through your nose. Good. Hands can come back down, come back up onto your fingertips to a flat back. Bring your hands to your hips and slowly come to stand. Go ahead and heel toe your feet together, and we're going to do 1 balance pose before we end with some deep breathing. So you've got 2 options for the balance. You can either lift your right knee up into your chest and hold it right here, or you can grab hold of the inside of your right foot with your right hand, put your left hand on your hip, and begin to work that right foot, right leg towards straight. It may not get all the way straight, and that's okay. Mine is a little bit bent. Try to keep your chest lifted, and if you can't, just pull your knee in toward your chest. It's better to have good alignment than to try to do something that doesn't feel good in your body. So let's hold for 2 more breaths, and then we'll switch sides. Good. And release. Bringing the left leg into your chest. And again, you can just stay right here, pressing down through the right foot, bringing the left knee into the chest, Or if you'd like to extend the left foot forward, you can grab hold of the inside of the left hand with the left foot with the left hand, right hand on your hip. That left shoulder is going to be a little bit forward, that's fine, but as much as you can, keep your chest lifted. Find a focal spot for your eyes and fix your gaze there. Anytime you're doing a balanced pose, it's good to keep your eyes fixed on just one location. It helps you stay balanced. And let's do one more breath here. Good. Your knee back into your chest and lower. And we'll end back where we began in mountain pose. So feet either close together or shoulder width apart. Allow your hands to rest at your sides. Lift your lower belly, broaden through your chest. Lift through the crown of your head. If you like, you can close your eyes. Allow your breath to flow smoothly in and out through your nose for just a few more breaths here. Again, if your eyes are closed, you can just notice where your weight tends to shift. And if your eyes are open, you can fix your gaze on a set spot and breathe. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, thank you so much for joining me for today's standing pop-up yoga practice. I look forward to practicing with you again soon.